Alright, let's talk about if Tibbs should get canned. Real quick, yes, I cursed the Celtics with yesterday's video and then they lost to the Pistons. Anyway, it was a real rough loss to the Nets. Cam Thomas hit a million contested jumpers when they brought extra attention to him. This was all in the fourth quarter, of course. It led to an open Seth Curry three, and then Tibbs was losing his mind. I don't know if somebody else was supposed to rotate to him or if Alec Burks just went too hard at the ball and he was supposed to stay home on Curry a little bit more. And you also got some LaMarcus Aldridge mid-range from throwing too much attention to Cam Thomas. And then while all this is happening on the other end, I mean, there were attempts. I mean, you had Randall and Fournier running some handoff actions. Fournier missed a few you feel at least okay about. Cam Reddish had a really ugly pull-up mid-range on the baseline off of a Randall handoff, I believe it was. There was one play where Mitchell Robinson was in the dunker spot, and Fournier ran an action with Randall, and the Nets were dropping, and there was just no space at all. It was impossible for Fournier to get a good look on it. The Knicks offense is now 25th in the league, according to Basketball Reference, and yeah, it's a rough watch, no doubt. And to think about the firing Tibbs thing, I mean, this roster has problems. They are in desperate need of a point guard that you can rely on. I think they could also benefit from a shooting center, or just more shooting in general. Even so, when you look at the amount of possessions that result in them just having to improvise something because the initial action died and there's nothing else happening, you have to blame Tibbs for some of that. There's also been Randall's season, and you can blame Randall for his tendency to go to fadeaways and all that. You can also blame Tibbs for an offense that just doesn't have enough motion to egg on somebody like Randall to be cutting to the rim and rolling to the rim. As I say this, Randall has been better lately. A lot of that off of him just being more aggressive in like transition opportunities or just attacking off the catch a little more often to get more trips to the line, although he is still taking the Randall jump shots, you know what I mean. As far as who do I blame for the rotations, I mean, obviously I blame Tibbs. I mean, it's been a nearly nightly occurrence now, at least after Knicks games, where I'll just search on Knicks Twitter, and so much of it is, why is Tibbs playing this guy this many minutes? This guy had a great 5-minute stretch, and then Tibbs pulls him, that sort of thing. And when I say this guy, I feel like 9 out of 10 times it's Obi Toppin, who has really had his minutes decline lately here. I mean, he's barely scraping 10 minutes a game lately. And while all of this has happened, you've had RJ, who, he's missed the last 4 games, but sometimes they'd be featuring him a lot in pick and rolls, and I think they were ramping that up before he went down with this injury. I mean, Alec Burks has had just as many touches per game as RJ, and I don't think anybody is happy about that. Of course, you've also got this disconnect now between Tibbs and the front office. I mean, it started with trading that pick for Cam Reddish, and then Cam couldn't crack the rotation for a little bit. He has been playing recently, so okay. But then there's also this report now where the front office suggests that Tibbs is the problem, basically. That report came from Ian Begley, talking about how William Wesley is talking to Dolan about how there's a disconnect between them and Tibbs and the whole thing. And I mean, this front office clearly needs to have a conversation with Tibbs about the expectations for the rest of the season, and when there's a disconnect like this, I think both parties are at fault. And also, again, it's not as if this is a super duper talented roster. So I don't think this is a matter of the front office has done everything it can and Tibbs just dropped the ball. I mean, if Tibbs is your guy, then you need to assure him that even if you're losing like crazy the rest of the year, if it's because of development and playing quickly, McBride and Grimes and leaning on RJ more when he comes back and playing Obi more, then that's okay. But I don't know if Tibbs has that security as of right now. Would I fire him? I would have that conversation, and I would just see how this season goes. I don't think I would fire him mid-season, which I know Knicks fans don't want to hear, but I would probably let it ride out, see how the relationship is, and then make my decision in the offseason. And if I felt like there was just a big disconnect there, if I also just questioned, like, look, is Tibbs' stagnant offense and whatever else just going to be too much of a problem unless I get basically a superstar in here, then I would fire him. Now, let me say this. I'm not doing backflips about this front office either right now. The Kemba signing didn't work out. The Fournier signing, I mean, it's been not great. I don't think it's been a disaster. It's been up and down, we can say that. Of course, there's also bad luck. I mean, Derrick Rose's injury, Randall just falling back down to earth. As for this offseason for the Knicks, I mean, we'll end up talking about more of this when the time comes, but first thing I'm noticing is RJ's extension will be this offseason. My guess is that RJ will get a contract that is north of $20 million a year, and I'm sure there will be a lot of conversations amongst Knicks fans on a Julius Randle trade this offseason. I'm not going to make any predictions there.